Hello, this is John with Theology Ed. All right, this is part 7 of the Donnie Darko series. Bet you didn't expect that. It's been a while since I've taken a look at Donnie Darko, and I watched a few scenes today, and some stuff came to mind, and I was thinking, you know what? We may be able to put some pieces together here that are interesting, especially in relation to that 28 days and so on until when the world ends, right? And which I haven't talked much about, and since it's such a key element of Donnie Darko in the film, I figure I'll throw out an idea. But it's speculative about when that 28-day period could end, and it's weak. I wouldn't bet on it. But along the way, there are some connections that are substantive that I think are contributions to understand the film a little better, and we're going to take a look at them. So this is the iPad Go 2 Classroom Calendar 2020 with the jump to the Year of the Rabbit in the fall, and right here is your, Palestine in August to November of the Year of the Rabbit 2023 when the conflict begins, the collision. And we've talked about that. Now, this implies a jump roughly from the 2020 calendar to the fall 2023 calendar over here on the right side. And the question is, how do you get a time jump like this? And Donnie Darko has a lot to say about time travel and wormholes and all of this sort of thing. Of course, that's not literal time travel. What we're talking about here is understanding their planning and how these astrological events and symbols and signs and things happening are important to them for their occult planning. Now, take a look. Here, of course, is our timeline of the 7 eclipses. You have the 2017 Great American Eclipse, marking the beginning of their 7-year period that passes to the April 8th, 2024 Great American Eclipse. It began in the 2017 eclipse, and here's your X pattern of the eclipses, those two Great American Eclipses and their intersection over the United States. And this is a roughly 7-year period. It's actually 6 years. I believe it's 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days. And then the exact midpoint was here. Now, of course, for them, eclipses govern the period afterwards. So starts in 2017 on August 21st, goes to April 8th, 2024, and the months following governed by, in their view, governed by that eclipse. And so you get your roughly 7 years between, August 2017 for them to roughly end of July or August 2024. I'm guessing. Something like that, may even go a little further. Okay, so now you've got this period. And what we've discovered using the film White Noise is that this symbol, this June 21st, 2021 eclipse, or 20 eclipse, excuse me, the solstice eclipse that was such a big deal at the time, links up in their planning to another annular eclipse on October 14th, 2023. And it's as though these two are somehow connected. Now, what I'm going to show you is, very quickly, sort of the explanation of why this October 14th, 2023 date in eclipse is so important. If you take a look here, we have in the movie White Noise 2022, that one, okay? You had the train crash that led to the airborne toxic event that in the film was filmed in Ohio in 2022, right? For a film to be released in 2022. In February 2023, an actual train derailment that led to an airborne toxic event and evacuations that looks almost identical in how the events played out to the film. That happened in East Palestine, Ohio, and led to evacuations and so on, people returning, and then everybody downplaying it. In the film, one of the symptoms of the exposure to the airborne toxic event was deja vu. And then when he had to be evacuated, Jack is talking to this gentleman about it, and he has Simuvac on his arm, and Jack says, "What's that about?" And he says, "It's short for a simulated evacuation, a new state program they're battling over funds for." But this evacuation isn't simulated, it's real. We know that, but we thought we could use it as a model. So the event that happened in East Palestine in February appears to be a model. When the deja vu happens later, that's when it's like, haven't we been here before? Because that's the real event that it was pointing to in the first place. So it has a resemblance in some way, shape, or form to what happened in February 2023, which was in East Palestine. I believe it's pointing to what happens later in Palestine, the war, because the film is actually pointing to a lot of geopolitical things and events and slaughter eventually in Iran and so on. Now, what we have then is this 2023, the real event, February, train derailment in East Palestine, pointing to the moment when there's deja vu. Okay, when did the deja vu happen in the film? Okay, this happened when Jack is going to eclipse the sun. This is the Japanese flag that represents the sun in the Japanese flag, and his head's going to eclipse it. And at the moment, this guy with the TV has deja vu. You see, you are standing there. He's experiencing it. This is when the symptom of exposure is revealed, when we should be having deja vu around this eclipse that came after the February 2023 event. And this is, I think, pointing to the annular eclipse in October when the actual events took off. The annular eclipse in October happened on October 14th, 2023. And you see this familiar eclipse symbol right here that's associated with, right here you have your eclipse dot. I even have had it in here for a long time like this, the eclipse dot, here it is. His head is eclipsing the sun, there's your eclipse dot. And we're getting the symbol, and that's when the deja vu happens. Now, this is fascinating. So you see, I'll just show you. Here's the eclipsing. So it's full eclipse and then that. Okay? It's fascinating because then that means that this scene is pointing to the eclipse in October 2023, the October 14th annular eclipse, and perhaps the subsequent partial eclipse of the moon on October 28th. Because in 2020 as well, there was an eclipse followed by a penumbral, in that case, lunar eclipse following it, right? So that's the 14 days later, just like here. Okay? And this was all related to the swan song of the United States and the last, last performance or effort, the end of this whole world order, right? Because even in IPEC-02, when the Bin Laden character with the CIA badge is summoning the war and conflict and terrorism, perhaps, he is doing it here under the eclipse. That looks like it'll be an annular eclipse. Some people think it's a lunar eclipse, partial lunar eclipse. Either way, it's pointing, I think, to the year of the rabbit eclipses in October. And here is your swan. We're entering the swan song. In Donnie Darko, we had this eclipse. As he walks out of the room, we had swan song records on the roof and on the ceiling, excuse me. Then in Freaky, right before the big eclipses and attacks, we had the swan song liquor that her mom was drinking, and that eventually, that sequence leads up to the partial lunar eclipse and then the end times. Okay, now let's go to Donnie Darko again, keeping all of this in mind. So Donnie Darko arrives at the doomsday midnight in the film. It was October 2nd, 1988. He's sleeping. Here's his little eye thing. Then they show this eye. We've talked about it in previous parts, I believe, of this series. Then the little rabbit flashes on the eye, and then you get the pupil dilating, and so on. We go outside. He's sleeping. The light turns on because he wakes up. He's being summoned to this sort of tangent world or universe. He wakes up, and then he leans in front, and we get the eye with the eclipse. Notice this time the eclipse is to the right, and we get the dot to the left. Now, this is when he walks out of the room. There's our, swan song symbol. He goes down the stairs, and we're seeing the United States in the process of collapsing. The television is going to white noise. like the death of the United States, because and on that is the Star Spangled Banner. You can still hear it being played and sung, but it's all broken up. It's mixed in with white noise, like it's trying to survive and not surviving. So this is the beginning of the death of the United States. Then he goes out. Okay. Now he's going to be dealing with the threat of the end of the world with this rabbit. Okay, and inside this goes full static, white noise, like the United States is ending while these people are sleeping. Then the collision happens, the crash, the plane part hitting Donnie's room and destroying the Swan Song records with the U.S. flag. And where's Donnie? Here we have a second representation of the symbol, except reversed. Look, so Donnie's sleeping out here. He comes in to eclipse the sun. He's going to be full in a second. I just got my screenshot there. And there he is. And so we get the symbol again. But notice this time the eclipse is to the left and the dot to the right, exactly like we have here. Okay, I think what we're looking at is now we're doing our little quote-unquote time travel and arriving here. And that's when we see written, of course, we've heard this one other time in the film, but this one we see written the 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds, I believe is what it was. Okay, now what would that be? Let's say the date begins with October 14th, 2023, that eclipse, the solar eclipse. Well, if that were 28 days later, then it'd be on November 11th in the evening in New York City, for example. Okay? If it was the lunar eclipse, the 28th, that marked that date starting, then it would be in the evening or sometime, well, almost midnight. I don't know exactly when it would be, 6 hours after this. Depends on the 25th to 26th of November. Okay? And that would be the time, if it's actually literally 28 days, 6 hours, and so on. Now, this idea that it's a wormhole from one place to another in Donnie Darko is supported by this scene. Okay? Donnie is talking to his professor, a teacher, science teacher, and the slinky represents a wormhole in their discussion explicitly. Here's your black hole with the ring of fire representation, so that's a solar eclipse representation, and the slinky representing the wormhole. We're getting the symbol right here. Now, I don't know that that represents the lunar date. Maybe it represents another event that we're not paying close attention to, but so the 28 days may begin after that event, which I'm not sure exactly when it was, because sometimes this symbol, at least in the starting point, looks like it's Sirius. Okay, coming the birth of Sirius in the sky in the summer, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% positive. So here we have this connection again, the symbol, and if it's a wormhole, theoretically a wormhole in space controlled by man. And so here's Donnie's sequence. Begins here, goes through here, gets the same reversed symbol. Now it's looking like white noise. Okay? And then we get our 28 days, 6/42/12, possibly. In which case, again, it supports the possibility, at least, this is speculative, the possibility that we get this connection here one of these dates, or perhaps if this is pointing to something else in the season, another date, 28 days after that, whatever it is. But we're getting close, I think, is the idea. And that's where we go. So we get the 2020 eclipse symbolized. He goes out. Then we have this little time warp. He comes, and the symbol here comes up again to show when he comes back, or whatever. And then the 28 days after that, possibly, is the big event. Okay, that's, again, a lot of speculation here, but certainly it's fascinating that the second eclipse, which we know represents the October one here, seems to be pointed at here, which also means in the Heliofont logo, which has the eclipse with the dot to the right, could be pointing more specifically to the return date, the October 14th, October 28th event eclipse sequence or period. Okay? All right. Like, subscribe, share. I hope you found the video helpful. Take care. Blessings.